In the United Kingdom every year 20,000 people simply disappear. I know what I'm talking about because I am a disappearing person. I'm a person who has already disappeared. Now, over 10 years, this is 200,000 people. 200,000 disappeared people in the United Kingdom. How this comes about is people like myself who were unemployed or are unemployed at the moment for long periods of time, and the welfare payments eventually become problematic. To continue taking welfare payments becomes incriminating. If you want to keep going with it, you're going to end up in a criminal court. The only alternative is sickness benefit. And in order to get sickness benefit, people will self-harm to an incredible extent. Now, in my case, it was eventually you'll be audited. Okay, now what that means is that a really crack squad of fraud investigators will go through your entire history of unemployment, which is any reasonable person will accept. Unemployment benefit is built on a mountain of lies that you've had to tell them in order to get the money. And over a period of years you forget all the lies you've told, you know, but they're in there somewhere. And when you get audited, this fraud squad will find some discrepancies. Now, it may be that in order to make ends meet, you took a job on the side, say washing dishes or gardening or some other job, you know, in order to try to get a hold of some money. But if you get caught doing any kind of activity out with total unemployment, eventually you're going to get caught. And when it comes to the crunch, the DSS will approach you with the idea of, look, you can just disappear, you know, just walk away out the door and don't come back. Don't claim any more welfare, don't sign on the dole, don't do anything, just go away, because if you continue this process, we're going to take a case out against you in the court. And if you lose that, you're going to be fucked. Big time, okay? So you disappear. It's the only reasonable thing to do. You walk out. You become one of the dispossessed in the consumer society. This also closes any bank account that you might have, because you've got no income to go into the bank account. So you're an uneconomic account, so the bank account cannot stand. That goes. Every other form of connection with society is better dissolved. Taxation, you know, not a problem. You just simply disappear. There's so many disappearing and disappeared people in this country that the government has given them a name. They're called the economically inactive. Nobody knows the real number of these people, but it could run to maybe 2 million people who don't exist. So it's all about maintaining welfare. Government will honour welfare for a short period of time, but eventually they'll want to stop this and push you out into what's known as social exclusion. Now, when this crunch comes, as I said earlier, you can go on to sickness benefit. And the sickness benefit will include if you want to register as a drug addict. See, So if you want to be a drug addict, it's okay. You know, you'll get continued welfare. In fact, you'll even get an increased amount of benefit because you're a drug addict, and you'll get free methadone on a daily basis. Now, methadone was invented in the concentration camps of Nazi Germany. It was first experimented on with Polish prisoners, and they were very pleased with its effect. The first name that methadone had was dopamine, after Adolf. So that's where it comes from, and it's been dispensed at every chemist in the country on a daily basis. A back problem, very, very common, a knee problem, a joint problem, that'll get you maybe a year, 2 years of sickness benefit. So Scotland's rates of sickness are the highest in the developed world. We got more people with every illness in Scotland. A huge amount of that is people who are become so desperate to maintain welfare payments that they'll mimic any, physical or mental aberration to continue the payments. Now, I personally know people who have feigned insanity and ended going into mental hospitals, and like one flew over the cuckoo's nest, in order to keep their benefit going. I know another guy who they were going to cancel his benefit, and he broke his right leg. Okay, he broke his own leg, and that got him about 9 months to a year of continued welfare payments. And then his leg got better, and they were going to stop his money again. So he went and he broke the same leg again, to get more benefit. They'll do anything. I knew one guy, I knew him quite well, Jean-Paul, a lovely big 6-foot guy. He was about 25 years old, and a happy guy, and he had actually got a wee job, on the side, and he got caught, and they were going to stop his money, which made the job useless. The job paid so little that he couldn't live on that either. He needed the 2 incomes to live. So they were going to stop his money, and he came up with the idea he was going to go on sickness benefit, right? Now, I said, look, don't do it, man, just, disappear, But he said he was going to do it. He was kind of determined. So we drove him home one night, and on the way back he said he was going to do the mental trip. He was going to go up to Stratheden and sign himself in and pretend to have mental problems, right? Now, I said, look, man, don't do it. Okay, I says, please don't do it. I says, what to do is get yourself a lawyer and appeal the decisions that the DSS were making on his welfare. I says, get them. This will go to an appeal. It will take months. You get a lawyer on it, you don't even have to go to the hearings. The lawyer will go, and hey, you might win. They're quite good at this. But he was saying, no, I'm going to go to the doctor and I'm going to pretend I'm having mental problems. I've seen another guy that's done this, and it worked quite well. Now I've seen this guy he talked about, right? And in my opinion, he wasn't faking it. He was off his head. So I said to Jean-Paul, I says, look, please, don't do this thing. Don't go to the mental hospital. Don't pretend to be, get a lawyer. And I really pleaded with him. Now, he went away, and I never seen him for a couple of weeks, actually. Now, in that period, this is what he done. He turned up at a neighbour's house, right, and he said that he couldn't feel his arm, right, and he couldn't lift it, and he was having sort of strange aberrations of the mind, and he couldn't feel this side of his body and things. They sent for an ambulance, took him to the hospital. they checked him out, okay, and but they took it real seriously, and especially being unable to lift his arm and stuff, you know, they thought this is serious. And they put him into a big CAT scan machine where you lie in and it gives them a three-dimensional picture of your brain. They thought this guy could have a brain tumour. They put him into the CAT scan, and it was a kind of bit inconclusive, but they reckoned that, yeah, that there was a kind of area round about, you know, here, and that they thought he might have a brain tumour. So, you know, they let him go and said he's got to come back and we've got to do more tests, and it says, but you should be okay if, you know, in the meantime, but it will perhaps get worse and you'll maybe have to come back, but we're going to see a neurosurgeon about this, you know, we're going to take more advice. So they let him out, and he was, you know, sign on, yeah, no problem, you're on sickness benefit, you don't even have to sign on. So this worked very well. In fact, he got more welfare money. Okay, so but then it was about 6 weeks later. You know, he got an appointment to see a neurosurgeon in Edinburgh. Okay, so he goes to see the guy, and the guy, you know, he's got the CAT scan. He wants to take more pictures, and you know, and he's looking. He says, "Yeah, man." He says, "I think you've got a brain tumour. I think we're going to go in. We're going to operate." Now, at that point, I would have said, look, you know, yeah, I'll be okay, you know, it's coming back, you know, the feeling. But he kept going with it. It went on for about 6 months, you know, this process. And eventually, he went in to have the operation. And the operation, he signed, yes, I want the operation. He thought he was made for life with this. But in fact, instead of being made for life, I'm afraid John Paul was made for death. And the operation went wrong, and he died on the table.